And then we heard the rumors that the last scientists were working on a cure that would end the plague and restore the world. Restore it? Why? I like the death. I like the misery. I like this world!
What's up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with my good friend and guest, Jay Call. And he's already got the cybernetic chicken right out there for you all to see. We are, of course, doing another Kaiju Spotlight, this time on Gigan. And, man, let me tell you, it's funny when I put these intros together, I try to give enough shine to each character that I'm using and spotlighting, but like that ending sequence there, you know the bad guy's not going to end well. So, but I try to cut that out. Look cool enough though. So Gigan is one of the villains against Godzilla, first introduced I think in 1972. He's been in 3 films, Godzilla vs. Gigan, Godzilla vs. Megalon, and also Final Wars. His appearance is a bit of a half-bird, cybernetic creature. I know a lot of people like to make fun of him looking like a bird, but it gets better as he gets modified, apparently. But his origins also come out pretty much from outer space. The Zillions or Jillian ones that are sending him out to help with either Ghidorah or Megalon. But I wanted to get your take. What was your first experience with Gigan? Because you are a Kaiju fan like I am. And so tell everybody, what was the first experience you ever saw with Gigan?
Okay, so the first experience with Gigan, I want to say it was around 89 or 90. I want to say somewhere roughly around there. I was still young, maybe 3 or 4. And we were in a video store, and I came across, of course, I'm also a dinosaur nut as well. First dinosaur film I watched was Dinosaurs, and I rented another one, which was Godzilla versus Gigan. And I was like, Godzilla versus Gigan, this sounds interesting. 2 kaijus fight, all that. And for being my first Godzilla film, that's how I got hooked on it. And it wasn't until later on when I saw Megalon for the first time. I think I got Megalon in a 2-pack. No, I recorded Godzilla vs. Megalon because that film always had distribution issues, like
Yeah.
a lot of illegal stuff. But believe it or not, besides those two films in the show era, Gigan was actually a part of a TV show called Zone Fighter. He was in episode 11, where the design from Megalon, they actually used that design and they used him, and instead of him like how he glides in each movie, these aliens use him to modify him a little bit, and they use like balloons to carry him down. And besides his, razor claws, his little buzzsaw
Hmm.
thing right there, he they actually upgraded him to where on his about right here on the hook, little exploding thing. So where he's fighting Zone Fighter, when he hits him, it would explode. So, but Gigan wasn't the only one in this Zone Fighter series because while watching you and Anthony talk about King Ghidorah,
Hmm.
King Ghidorah was also in Zone Fighter in two episodes. One was on Earth, and then one was like I want to say like on an asteroid or moon, because I only seen like video clips of these.
Now, I'm not familiar. What is Zone Fighter? What is that?
Okay, Zone Fighter. I guess you could say it's across the Ultraman series.
Okay. Okay.
It is a gentleman. Whole story is this family is fleeing from, if I remember this correctly, is fleeing from these evil aliens, and uh, the dad who's protecting the mother and son, he becomes Zone Fighter, and he has all these unique gadgets. His main weapon is around his wrist. He's got like little pistols around him, and I think it's
Yeah.
called a meteor shot or something.
Is it kind of like the Iron Man thing when he's shooting out the missiles?
Kinda, just,
Okay.
but it's actually a little circle thing that he just goes. He
Gotcha.
also he also has a laser beam, and I think he has one other speciality. I mean, after all, I am the Ultraman guru, as some
There you
people.
go. That's pretty good. Because I know I'm talking to Connor Toku Satsu Shogun. He's big into that stuff too. Like that stuff's all new to me. Like I've never seen much of Ultraman. But curious too was so you mentioned Ghidorah and Gigan being like added into a couple of those episodes. Were they listed as those creatures, or were they just modifications to them?
No, they actually use the Showa King Ghidorah and Showa Gigan for these series. They
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
because they use the Megalon Godzilla suit, because Godzilla was also in this series as well. And he actually teamed up with some fighter to face some other creatures from it. I'm hoping that in the near future, even though this series was never completed, I hope they release the episodes that they do have, like on a collection type thing, because I would
Yeah.
like to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. We see what's going on with the MonsterVerse and how they did their universe, but it's surprising that Godzilla, Ultraman, and Gamera never really crossed paths. You know what I mean? It's just
Oh,
one of those
no.
weird. I mean, Ultraman did sort of, but Gamera's never really done that. So it's just interesting. They never really thought about doing that.
Oh no! And hopefully one day we'll get a Godzilla and Gamera. Hopefully one day, but it'll probably be after our lifetime, more than likely.
Probably,
We'll
if they're
just
dragging their feet this long, it ain't anytime soon.
yep. And Godzilla technically did fight Ultraman, but it was under the character named Gyrus
Yeah.
because they didn't have enough money in the budget to create a new kaiju for the episode where this evil professor created this dinosaur. So what they did was use the Godzilla suit, I think from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, and just added a big yellow frill, and that's how you got Gyrus or
Nice.
Gyra. So,
So, quick question: what's your favorite dinosaur?
oh, shit.
Just
um, you know, that is a very good question. I like most of the dinosaurs. I would probably say T Rex, but I also like even though it was, in Jurassic World, generally altered. I like the design of the Giganotosaurus. I mean, I
Mhm.
enjoyed that. I mean, I actually got an Iron Studio statue uh,
Oh wow.
over here.
Yeah, I've always grew up like you. I like dinosaurs a lot, so I grew up liking Triceratops a lot. Always like the armor. Maybe that's why I kind of like Angirius so much, even though he's more like an Ankylosaurus. But uh, yeah, so my first experience with Gigan, of course, is not unlike yours. I mean, the first movie I ever saw with Godzilla was Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla '74. But the very next weekend that I went to the movies, it was Godzilla versus Gigan, and then that followed with Megalon and Godzilla. So I got two movies there after that that gave me a taste of a Gigan, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I really got into this stuff a lot. Um, do you agree? And I thought this is interesting because the more I think about it, the more I kind of have my own thoughts on this. But despite King Ghidorah being maybe Godzilla's biggest foe or villain, do you think maybe Gigan's like the most horrifying of the villains? Just the behavior and what he does when he's out there.
I would probably, yeah, honestly, because if you look at the design of him, I mean, he's got hooks right here
Hmm.
that he literally caused Godzilla to bleed right in the head. You have Anguirus that was dumb enough to go into the spinning
Yeah,
blade.
you're just kind of looking at it like, hey, what's that? Da-da-da-da-da-da. I mean, they can't do my boy right.
and and here's the funny thing too, because originally, besides his claws and the spinning saw, he was
Yeah,
actually the little circle above his head right here. He
yeah.
was actually supposed to shoot out a laser beam. Was supposed to, and some type of heat beam from his mouth, but you only see that in the Nintendo game Godzilla Monsters of Monsters.
Okay.
So it's amazing how much they could have done, because I think it would have been cool to see like the laser shooting out of his top of his head or the flamethrower. But I guess they were like, oh, that's a little too spicy. We already got King Ghidorah that can shoot out lightning. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, if you think about it, his weaponry is probably the most versatile of any kaiju. Like what we got his hook hands, which eventually, if he gets modified in Final Wars to like these double-edged saw blades, and
Oh
then
yeah, because
he's got the ability to fly. Yeah, there
oh
you go.
yeah,
That is sweet. And then he's
yeah,
got like I don't know, he's got these like little discs that I remember him shooting out at Mothra at one point.
oh yeah,
Laser blast from his visor when he's modified again.
yeah.
Uh, he's still got the bladed slicer up here. And the funny thing is, even in that version you have there, he has like this modified tail that's almost like a scorpion. Like you can use that as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So they really did him like with a lot of great weaponry. So
Oh yeah.
it's kind of amazing how he ends up usually getting his ass kicked pretty fast compared to Couture and everybody else.
Oh yeah. And what was real funny is there were concepts. in the Heisei era. You remember the Godzilla Wars Treadmasters figures that would come out?
Yeah.
They had a Gigan, that design of the Gigan from the Treadmasters, and I think I have it somewhere up in the attic somewhere. But that was the design that they could have used if it was in the Heisei era, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, I was just kind of pulling up some pictures where some other like iterations. Like this is kind of cool.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I've seen that.
and then got this is more like a basic model. But yeah, he's always had like a very cool look. I mean, how do you feel about the evolution from like his beginnings to where he ended up with Final Wars?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, the show is still stands out because obviously they reused this design for that little short film.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, he has evolved a lot, and I definitely because this is my X Plus figure right here.
that is so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, believe it or not, when I went to one of my where I live, there's a comic book store about 45 minutes away from where I live. It's the only place I can go, and they actually had this X Plus figure. I was like, oh, I have to get that,
Yeah,
and I do have the over there the SH Monster Arts guy again, where it has both these versions of the claws where the hooks
yeah, to
shoot
shoot
out,
out. Yeah,
and of course, me, I went with the chainsaw hands. So I got the chainsaw hands and his little eye beam. I actually have a little setup over there where Monster X is behind Godzilla and Gigan is firing his beam. So, but yeah,
yeah.
all in
That-
all, I
yeah.
love I love this design the best. I think
Oh
this
yeah.
looks more menacing
Yes, I was going to
than
say it's
than this.
far more fearing and menacing than the original version of it. I mean, he looks badass here, but it's just kind of goofy too at the same time.
Oh yeah, I
Plus, the
got
way they
that.
had the mannerisms back then, when it was more during the playful children fun type movies, even though they had
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
blood back then.
Oh yeah, I even got the SH Monster Arts of this guy again over there.
Is
Um,
that considered a Funko Pop there with that one or no?
no, this is a Defa reel. This is an X Plus figure. It's
Okay.
just a smaller version because I got about between 15 to 20 X Plus Defa reel figures, Godzilla figures, including Gamma figures.
Very nice.
So yeah, and they're not really that bad of a price. It's better than those like over the thousands.
Yeah, I mean, like I was telling people the other day, like, when we went to G Fest, they had a Ghidorah that was from the MonsterVerse, and it was beautiful. Just, I mean, it had to be probably if it was on my desk, probably stood about this high. But it was like $600. I'm like, man, I don't have that kind of cash laying around. I
No,
just can't do it.
and heck, most of my X Plus figures that I've gotten are between. I guess it depends. It could range from 100 and something to 300 something, which is not bad, really and truly.
Yeah, no, I mean, compared to some of the other stuff, I mean, look, I got the -1 the other day, and this only sent me back about $85. So I'm happy as a clam with this.
I came close to getting that because that was in a. It's a store called Games to Go in
Hmm.
my town, and they have figures. It's got figures, video games, movies, anything you can think of, even trading cards and comic books. But they had the Super 7 -1. I came this close to getting it, But I was like, you know what? I got the Ishibachi -1, the
I've seen that's pretty nice too.
Kevin's Gold
Yeah.
-1. I got that too. So I mean,
Now I did get
I'm
kind of lucky. I was at because back in Maryland before we moved, we had our own Walmart and Targets and stuff, and they would occasionally carry like figures and stuff. But I never saw anything with Mechagodzilla. So when we got out here and we were kind of Christmas shopping, it's when I was basically Christmas shopping for myself. But I'm like, she's busy over in another aisle. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the figures. I'm like, oh, I'm getting this. Oh yeah, this too. I think I'll grab this.
Yeah, at my Walmart, they have that one and the '04 Godzilla from Final Wars,
Oh,
and
nice.
both have the heat ray. And they do have a minus another store that I go to that sells movies and comics. Uh, they had a -1 where it showed out the breath as well. So
Yeah, I do have the Ray for this, but I usually don't put them up here just because it's too easy to knock off and fall off. So I don't know, it's weird. But getting back to Gigan, if they brought Gigan back to the MonsterVerse or through Toho, what would you like to see in terms of storyline? So, would you like to see him still kind of be attached to aliens in some way, or would he be like a human creation? What would you like to see?
ooh, that is a good question. Well, we've already seen like the alien aspects of it, so it'd be intriguing to see like a human, like creating like scientists trying to figure out how to do cybernetics and all of that, and that's when they come up with the idea like, oh, let's build a giant kaiju to fight Godzilla and all that. And I would say if they would do that, maybe have a blend of the two in a
Yeah.
way. I mean, nothing too fancy, but just maybe have like a blend of it. Like keep the show design, but maybe have like uh, maybe like have the shooting out hooks and maybe some of the little spikes that come out. Definitely keep the laser beam eyes for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they kind of played with it with Mechagodzilla, but and Apex is kind of one of those companies that will play around with technology. So obviously, when I talk with Jedi about Jet Jaguar kind of being in a similar situation, like if they were going to do something that was robotic like, or at least attempt another one, Gigan would be probably pretty cool to try to do.
Oh yeah, and Gigan has been in besides movies and TV shows like this shelf right here that's got a
Yeah.
little bit of Funko Pop. This is all my comic books and books and stuff. Gigan has been in about 4 or 5 of the comic book series. The one that you're interested in is called
Yeah.
Rulers of the Earth.
Yeah.
The one I have, I got the individual comics. I got the little graphic novels, like each set from 1 through 5, and then I have the volumes like 1 and 2. That's like the first part, and then the second part. That's a good. You would enjoy that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've already set them aside in my Amazon card, so I plan on getting those at some point because I think it's fucking amazing artwork and it's cool that all the
Oh
kaiju are
yeah,
there.
that is one of my favorite comic series, and I also like Godzilla Rivals, where they did have a Godzilla versus Gigan, which they used this one. They have Batra. They even had a Space Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, but Space Godzilla is in an alternate universe. the last one that they did, which I thought was unique, was Godzilla Rivals King Ghidorah versus Space Godzilla.
Oh wow.
Yep, that was the last one that they did. So that might be something you might like as well. But
Well, yeah. I mean, so is that one not dealing with Godzilla at all? It just has Ghidorah and Space Godzilla.
oh, it. Hold on, just a sec.
All right, sure. I love. He's got all this shit. It's so awesome. All his little toys.
Oh, I got a little stiff. That was a good. So this is volume 1.
Okay.
This one is where it says Godzilla Rivals, and then it'll say versus. There's Hedorah, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Batra. That's volume 1.
Wow.
Volume 2. This one was unique because even though Godzilla was part of some of this,
Yeah.
you have. Let me see if I can. You have Godzilla versus Gigan, Rodan versus Ebra, Mothra versus Titanosaurus. I think that would be a good movie right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the final one for this volume is Biollante versus Destroyer.
Oh.
That one was an interesting one. And then this is volume 3. This one is Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, but Godzilla's really not in it. So he's actually Space Godzilla's on another planet where he fights a kind of like an insectoid kaiju in a way.
Yeah.
Then you have, and Jedi would love this one, Jet Jaguar versus Megalon, Godzilla Rivals. Then you have Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. And then Mothra versus Mogira.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
each one of these are interesting. And I have plenty of comics, so if you have any questions, I can always show you off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you went to go get everything, I'm like, yeah, he's got all his toys. We're gonna get to see a lot of shit here. So that one's called Godzilla Rivals, right?
Yes, and there will be a 4th volume coming out. They had the King Ghidorah versus Space Godzilla. They also had King Ghidorah versus Mecha Godzilla.
Oh wow. See, I like that. I like that idea, that concept. So that's one thing I kept talking about with sort of the MonsterVerse is like I understand they're not gonna go like balls to the wall and do a lot of this, but if you would have got like a Rodan origin story where maybe he does fight, you know, a Ibra or some random creature, or origin story from Mothra, or even King Ghidorah, where they talked about how he came to the planet, you know, many years ago. That would be fun. I mean, I know they're not going to do it because it's all about money, but man,
Yeah.
those concepts are fucking amazing. I love the idea behind it.
So here's a question for you, because I know you were really intrigued about the Biollante and Destroyer. Who do you think won?
You know, I gotta say, maybe Biollante.
Yep, Biollante won. That threw me for a loop when I first read it. I was
Well,
like,
yeah, I think she has like a lot that, you know, we only got the one movie, but we know she can do many different things, but it's like it's almost like she's a little underrated, you know what I mean, in terms
oh
of
yeah.
a opponent. So but don't spoil it. Like I want to read it. I gotta find a way to get it. But like it sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, just go on Amazon, like I said, and just look up Godzilla Rivals, and you should be able to get like the first volume. And I think volume 4 comes out sometime later this year or mid this year.
Very nice. So we talked about the weaponry that Gigan has. Now, if they were to do more with him going into these future movies, do you think they should add some more weaponry, or does he have enough? And if they did add some, what would you like to see added?
He's got pretty good weaponry. The only other thing I would think of is maybe the tail aspect. Maybe make this into like a drill, maybe. Either that or how these are shaped. He could fire like a laser beam, like
Yeah, kind of like Shin in some ways. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that would be kind of cool in a way. But other than that, I think Gigan with what he has, whether it's from the Showa or the Millennium era, I think he's okay. How
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got plenty of stuff to work with for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny too that this one lasted a lot longer
Mm-hmm.
in both Godzilla versus Gigan and Megalon. Hell, he even got his arm broke by Jet Jaguar in this sucker right right here. He uses the hooks and he's sitting here going "Zzz," and reeling Godzilla in, fire breath to the head, and then all of a sudden, yeah, up, fall over. I'm like, you're the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he even fought Mothra, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot my little disc guy." That's when he does that turn in the fire and thinks he's got it all set, and it's like the blades come back, take off his own head, and she just sacrifices herself and blows him up. I thought that's it's like Gigan, really?
Well, heck, he lasted longer in that fight than with the Godzilla fight. And the one part of the movie in Final Wars that still makes me laugh to this day, and I think it's from the English dub version, is when the Exilian sends Zilla to go fight Godzilla. Godzilla ends it like that. He's like, yeah, 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 yeah. I knew that tuna head wasn't much.
Yeah,
Next.
yeah, just having next. Oh my god.
Man.
Yeah, that movie's got a lot of fun in it. I know people sometimes don't like it, but I love that movie
Oh,
so much.
I enjoyed it. And I know some people don't like Monster X that transformed into Kaiser Ghidorah, but I actually
I thought
enjoyed
that was
that.
amazing. I
Oh,
thought that
yeah.
was
I
freaking
enjoyed
great.
that design, especially Monster
And I
X.
didn't even expect it. Like when it came down as the Kaiser, I was like, dude, this is new. This is interesting. And then all of a sudden, when I started seeing the shoulders moving, it's like, oh shit, we got a transformer. You know, I thought this was the greatest thing ever. I thought that was very clever.
Yeah, it really was. And and honestly, I thought Monster X was going to be the mummified monster,
Yeah.
but it turned out to be Gigan. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, I could see that, I guess, but I would have preferred something else to be mummified than Gigan. I mean, technically, he rusted. I would say he rusted up.
Well, that's the funny thing too is that he's the one that's mummified. He's the one that's like the humans are like, yeah, we found this creature and it's got the M base in it and this and this, but he's the one that dies like the quickest half the time.
Yeah, I'm like, what the heck? Did you turn him into a
Because you would
sissy?
expect him being the one that the aliens focused on so much that like, oh yeah, he's gonna be our boss man. He's gonna be the one to really do some damage, but then it's actually Kaiser Ghidorah that ends up lasting the longest.
Yep. And a deleted scene from the film when Godzilla's battling King Caesar, Rodan and Angrith, Godzilla actually was supposed to use his breath and disintegrate him, but they cut that from the scene, so they just left him just like, hey, look, I'm gonna play
Yeah, I think
soccer.
if I read it was because they're considered allies to Godzilla and they didn't want Godzilla to annihilate them to the point of like destruction.
Yeah.
All right, so when it comes to Gigan and his history with the franchise and all that, what do you think his lasting legacy is going to be, and how his impact on the Kaiju universe will be in the end?
Ooh, well, when he debuted in the Showa era, besides being controlled by cockroach aliens, uh, and I thought that was always an interesting story plot.
Utopians,
Well,
which they really weren't even in the sea; they were like in the Middle Earth or some crazy shit.
yeah, and they called Nebula Hunter M the Sin Gigan, which Gigan is from, and these aliens are from, because these aliens are from a planet similar to Earth, but it was polluted and all that, and they're one piece, so they're just yeah. But Gigan, I would have to say, in the show era, he put God, even though he was controlled, and even though the controls were destroyed, he still took it to Godzilla by busting him open, cutting him, making him bleed, making anger bleed several times. It's like, oh, let me run into this.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's really like a lot of the descriptions that you read about him is like he's a sadistic cyborg. So that's why it's like, as much as Ghidorah is like always remembered as the ultimate foe outside of maybe Destroyer, Gigan is probably the most horrific of the ones that would fight him. Like he's the one that's like, I'm just gonna really screw and mess you up bad.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he did. Even though he wasn't in there long in Megalon. For the time that he was in there, he still put up a decent fight, all that. And well, in Final Wars, even though his designs were cool and all that, he kind of sucked in the film, but in a
He
way,
looked good, but he looked good dying.
yeah. So, I mean, all in all, Gigan will probably be remembered as one of Godzilla's toughest adversaries. Just the sheer fact that it was part creature cyborg. It had hooks, saws, and all that. I mean, he put up a good fight.
Yep.
So,
Well, I know you're not a YouTube creator like some of the rest of us, but you are part of the Sci-Fi Society. So, as far as yourself, like, do you have plans for purchasing new figurines? Are you going to go to G Fest? Are you going to go to any Comic Cons? Like, what's your plan in terms of how you fit into the Kaiju fandom?
oh, I'll still be collecting figures. I will. G Fest, I'm still thinking about that because I still would like to go
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Have you ever been to one? Not
Never.
yet. Huh? Not yet. Okay. Yeah, I got to my first one last year. So.
Yep. Uh, well, Kevin's really wanting me to.
Oh yeah. I
Go.
think we're looking at 2026. So even for us, it's like, okay, we can probably manage that. Another
Well,
year down the road.
I'm definitely gonna give it some thought. I mean, I hope I don't travel by myself, but if I do, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on how the year plays out and all that. But I will never stop collecting. I'm definitely going to be getting the 4K of Godzilla versus Violente from the Criterion, and I like the cover art for it. I thought it was pretty cool.
No,
So
yeah. I mean, it was long overdue. I mean, I don't have 4K, but it's something I still need to get Blu-ray for. There's some stuff I have. I have Biollante and Godzilla on VHS. It's
Oh,
just
so do I.
Yeah.
This shelf right here that I'm pointing at is where all my Godzilla and Ultraman, Gamera, and other Kaiju stuff is on. So
Yeah, I gotta get you on with that other guy because man, that's all they really talk about the most part is the Ultraman. Like I guess are you familiar with Kamen Rider?
I do own a couple of series of
See,
Kamen.
that's right up your alley, man. These guys, that's their thing. They talk a lot about that. They're like you. They're trying to initiate me into that stuff. I'm like, it's cool, but I don't know anything about it. Like I just do not.
Well, considering the fact that you have over 43 Ultramans series, uh, each series here of late they've only been doing like 25 episodes. They're about only 30 minutes long. But
Yeah.
like the older ones, they've gone up to like 60 to 50 episodes. So, but if you're ever interested in watching an Ultraman series or whatnot, you don't have to necessarily watch the original. You can watch whichever one. Or
Right.
if you want to go in chronological order, uh let me look back here real quick. You got Ultra Q, Ultraman, Ultra 7, Return of Ultraman, Ultraman, I think it's Taro? Or no, Ace, then Taro, and then Leo. That's the original Ultramans. And then you got your Heisei Ultraman, which is Tiga, Dinah, Gaia, uh, Zerth. Zerth is good, but it's kind of a little goofy because the Ultraman's kind of a germaphobe, I guess, in a way. It's like cleaning. Uh, you,
Okay.
ha- you have Ultraman Neos, Cosmos, Nexus, Mimbius, Max, and I could go on and on. But yeah, so far out of all of them, my favorite ones are Max, X, and Blazar as of right now. But
Very
I
nice.
but I enjoy all of them. So
Naturally. As for me, tomorrow I will actually continue my Kaiju spotlight as I get to go with Daniel the Professor Miller as we actually are going to dive into the big man himself, Godzilla. So we'll be looking for that tomorrow. Then later in the week, I'm getting together with Kevin Lambert we're going to be reviewing on Cinematic Synergy the 1977 film Orca. And then later in the evening, Mr. Tony the Dead and I are going to come back to our Ghouls of Midnight. We're actually going to do two this week. The one we're going to be reviewing on Wednesday will be The Grapes of Death, Gene Rollin film that I really like. That was my pick. He hasn't told me what we're going to do on Friday yet, so he needs to get off his ass and tell me that so I know what to watch. And then Thursday it's more offbeat. It's not really related to anything other than football. I'm going to get together with Edgar Allan Poet, and we're going to talk about the 2024 NFL season and then going into the playoffs. So for anyone that might be interested in sports, that's what that show's about. But outside of that, that's what's coming up for me. Jake, thank you, man, for taking the time to sit with me. I appreciate it. I love
no
your
problem.
knowledge. Love
No,
your
thank you,
knowledge.
thank you. I mean, as much as because I always had trouble with the Japanese names, so I don't even bother trying to. I can say some of them, but it's just like Hunamawada.
Yeah, I'd have to sit there and just actually try to spell it out. Like that's how I'd have to do it.
Oh, and I saw what Kevin got you.
Oh
It,
yeah.
so I can actually explain that to you.
Well, I think Missy and I figured it out. So she was telling me, maybe you can confirm. So this one, okay, I think these two pieces come in it. If that's what I gather. And then I think like these other ones have like some of the rest of it. I'm assuming that's what's happening.
Yes, because if there's a website called
Because these
Godzilla.
ones have legs here. This one has the legs for Kamunga. So I'm assuming that's what this is. Is like I thought like if this had Kamunga on the cover that this was going to be all of him, but it's not.
Nah, because there's a place that I go to that
Yeah.
sells Godzilla merch. It's called Godzilla.com. It has biographies and everything on that, but it also has a store. And it has a few of those on there. And what it is that it's a model kit, and whatever is on the front cover, and then you see a picture on that, you have to get the volumes to get
To
the
complete
other.
it.
Yep. So, and it will literally say in the description, like if you're going to pre-order it
Yeah.
and all that, or if it is available, it'll say in the little side counter what all it is, and it'll actually tell you what volumes you'll need. So
Oh, okay.
it does translate into English. So
Well, apparently not on my box. So
but
I'm
yeah,
like looking at everything. I'm just like, okay, look, I know I need to learn Japanese, but I can't just like break it out right
hey,
now.
me too. I mean, I want to learn Japanese. I want to go to Japan, to be
So do
honest with
I. It's a beautiful culture, man. It's a beautiful language, and of course, as Kaiju fan, man, I want to go see Godzilla in Toho Studios. Like I envy Century with that. Like I really want to go do that.
you. Oh yeah.
Well, anyway, brother, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Stick around for a minute. For the rest of you, give us your thoughts. What do you think about Gigan as a kaiju? Just to let us know down in the comments. Hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, though, here on the Metal Time Rant Podcast, and take care of yourselves.